Champions, Miles Films, Althea Gibson, sound roll 7, camera roll 8, sound 15.
You played world-class championship tennis. Would you describe your style of play and perhaps evaluate yourself and the other players you competed against?
Well, my style of play, I believe, was aggressive, dynamic, and mean. The players that I played against, they were the same, actually, you know, because I came on the scene as an upstart in those years, and of course, in those years, I was struggling to become well known as the first black player to compete against world-class champions such as Louise Bruff, who I had the occasion to beat her at Forest Hills during the U.S. Nationals. But they were all very tough players, particularly on the grass surface that they had in those years at Forest Hills.
What were the circumstances that first brought tennis into your life?
Well, it was paddle tennis that started it all. At that time, my parents was living at 143rd Street between Lenox and 7th Avenue. And that happened to be one of the play streets. And they had all types of games up and down the street. Hoop basketball, marbles, loadies, and paddle tennis. And that paddle tennis court was right in front of my parents' stoop of that building. I think the address was 135 West 143rd Street. And one summer morning, I came down and a friend of mine, we hung out together, we played together, we roamed the streets together. We saw 2 bats and a ball on the paddle tennis court. So I said to her, what's that? So she said, well, 2 bats and a ball. I said, well, let's pick it up, let's see what, so we started hitting back and forth. And from that moment on, we were the block paddle tennis court occupiers. We would get up in the morning, as soon as they laid the court out, we were the first ones on. We stayed on, and we challenged anybody in the block to play us. Nobody would. So that's how I got started in tennis, through paddle tennis.
It sounds as though you were a very competitive, very athletic youngster, were you?
I believe I was in those years.
Would you give us an answer? I was a very...
Okay. I was very competitive in any of the sports that they had in that block, even down to shooting marbles on the manholes.
The world of tennis has changed considerably since you were a freshman player at Florida A&M. Would you talk about that time and how it was for you?
Well, when I went to Florida A&M, I went on a scholarship. After graduating from Williston Industrial High School in Wilmington, North Carolina, where I lived with Dr. and Mrs. Eaton and his family. They were my foster parents who took me into their homes and provided me the opportunity to finish my high school education. I graduated in '49 and immediately got a scholarship to Florida A&M. Upon arriving at Florida, of course, they wanted me on the Florida A&M tennis team. And the tennis courts happened to be behind a science hall where I went to classes to take science lab work. And I started playing, started practicing. And as a matter of fact, I think Florida A&M won our conference championships every year that I was on the team.
Now, I've skipped a little bit. I just want to back up with you for a moment. After your paddle tennis experience on your block, obviously you learned to play conventional tennis. Maybe you tell us a little bit about that, how that process developed. Who taught you?
Oh.
How did you go from your block to learn to play the game of tennis?
Well, after playing paddle tennis in the play streets, I think, I'm not too sure on this, but we have in those years a tennis club called the Cosmopolitan Tennis Club. That was I think it was the black elite tennis club in those years. And I
Are you a fan of tennis? And if so, who's your favorite tennis player?
was introduced to that club by the Play Street director of the Play Street named Buddy Walker, who happens to be a band leader, and he plays tenor sax. And he introduced me to the club, and upon introducing me, the tennis pro there, Fred Johnson, who happened to be one arm, he lost one arm during the war, and he took me on to teach me how to play lawn tennis. And he taught me the basics, the footwork, the service motion, and from 1946 to 50, no, I'm sorry, up to 46, I won the ATA Girls Singles Championship at the Cosmopolitan Tennis Club through the tutelage of Fred Johnson at the time. And went on from there.
Can you remember your very first match? I mean, your first real, official, competitive match?
I certainly can. The champion of that club, of the Cosmopolitan Tennis Club, was named Nina Irwin, and she was Caucasian. And I think it was the New York State Championship they held at the tennis club. I won. The very first time that I played any tournament of lawn tennis, and I defeated the champion, and therefore I became the champion. And so I won the girls singles for a few years, and I've had some competitors who defeated me when I was playing girls championship. But after that, I was a constant winner, I think.
Sound 16.
You told us about your first victory in a tournament. Do you remember your first loss?
That I don't. I think my first loss in the girls singles during those years was to was it Nana Davis? Yes, Nana Davis. I think she beat me maybe the next year, but she only beat me once.
What happened that next year?
Well, I don't remember what happened. I just lost.
Are there, in your history of tennis, an outstanding career, obviously, there must be some matches that stand out in your mind, that are particularly vivid to you to this day. Could you describe some of them?
Yes, there were two that is very vivid in my mind.
Could we go back? Would you say there were two matches that
There were,
are?
okay. There were two matches that is very vivid in my mind today. The first one was on court number 1 at Forest Hills. The first time I played at Forest Hills. It was against, I think it was the defending champion at the time, Louise Bruff. I was beating her. I think it was set apiece, and the third set, I was leading by 2 games, or let me say 4 games. I'm not too certain on that. Anyway, I was leading, and all of a sudden, the clouds opened up, the sky got dark as if they didn't want me to win this match. And the rains came pouring down. Lightning came immediately and struck the eagle on that corner of the stadium and tumbled it down. And they had to postpone the match, and I had to sleep on that overnight. And the next day I came out, I didn't have nothing. I lost all sting, and she beat me.
Cut. Sound roll 7, camera roll 9, sound 17.
Another vivid match that I don't think I'll ever forget was I was defending champion in 1958. It was the final match against Darlene Hart, who was 3 or 4 time doubles champion. She won the first set, to my surprise, because what she was doing, I had not realized what she was doing. I was serving and she was cutting my serve off, coming in and catching it right on the rise, therefore beating me to the net, and I was considered a good net player. So she won the first set, doing just that. The second set, I scrambled, but I had to win the second set if I was going to defend successfully. So after the break, we took a break after set apiece, and we came back out, and she started doing the same thing over again, beat me to the net. So my coach at the time, Sydney Llewellyn, was sitting in the marquee, and I was totally confused. I said, now here I am, the defending champion, about to lose. I said, no, I don't want this to happen. So I looked over at the coach, just glanced, and he, you know, I guess this is done between coach and player. He gave me one signal, and I proceeded to obey that signal and started putting a shot on Darlene that surprised her. And that shot was lob. When she came into the net, every time she came in, I lobbed over her head. I threw a lob up. It was so perfect that it hit the chalk on the baseline. So that means she had to run from the net back to the baseline and retrieve that. Next time she came up to the net, I threw up another one, and it hit the chalk line again. The third time she came in, I hit another perfect lob, and it hit the chalk line, and that was the end of Darlene Hart. I defended successfully.
In your years of playing, did you ever encounter someone, another player who you thought of perhaps as your nemesis? I mean, somebody who was just so tough for you that maybe you didn't want to see them on the other side of the net?
No. Oh, yes, indeed. I think it was the match before Darlene. Could have been the semifinal match that year. It was against a player who was ambidextrous. Other words, she hit 2 forehands only, had no backhand. Other words, she would hit forehand and take the racket, switch another hand, and hit a forehand. Other words, she had no backhand. So that confused me. But the only way I beat Beverly was my serve was the key to that match. Because in those days, and still, I was considered to have the best serve in women's tennis. The serve I put on her was called the American Twist, which sent the ball over to her left side, took her off the court, because the ball was set so severe that it would bounce and hop high, and she had to struggle to get it back. And I attacked the net, and invariably she would hit back down that line on the right side of the court, and I would cut it off and volley it away from her. That's the only way I beat her.
Was that the first time you beat her?
That was the only time I beat her. She beat me when I played in a tournament in California. I think she beat me 4 times. But at the Nationals, defending my title, that was the first time I beat her.
Tennis has always been a game involving a lot of travel. And you had grown up in Harlem, in a city, Manhattan, New York City. What did those other parts of America, those other parts of the world, look like to you when you started to travel on the tennis circuit?
At first, strange, different. The people's mode of living intrigued me. As a matter of fact, I considered it a great education to be able to travel around the world as I did, being the first black female tennis champion of the world, to have this privilege. And I enjoyed it tremendously. I learned a lot, I saw a lot, and I played a heck of a lot of tennis all over the world. I think it's always great for someone to be able to travel, especially representing their country in a sporting event, to travel to different foreign countries, to see how the other people of the world live. I enjoyed it very much.
What was the place, or what were the places you were most impressed by?
Well, in my earlier years, of course, I was impressed with visiting Germany, England, France, India, Southeast Asia, Pakistan, Calcutta. As a matter of fact, in '56, I was on a Goodwill State Department tour. There was 4 of us. Ham Richardson was the captain, Bob Perry was the other male player, Carol Fageros was the female player, and myself. And we played in every city just about in Southeast Asia. And I won every tournament in Southeast Asia. Every one I played in, from Calcutta to Rangoon, Burma. And that was quite a thrill. I got sick on one of those tours because of the food, you know. But I guess being American foreigners, you're gonna get sick now and then traveling. But it's quite an experience, quite an experience.
During your playing years, what about the game of tennis was most important to you?
The game of tennis that was most important to me.
No, I mean, what about the game, do you think, as you were playing? What was there in tennis that was particularly important to you? Was it winning? Was it...
Oh, well, definitely. It was mainly competing, because I was always a competitor. But being a competitor, I always wanted to win. So that was my main thing, is to play to win the best way I knew how, and using my God-given skills, and of course the things that I learned through my coach Sydney, who is right now is my husband. He's got a mind for tennis that you would not believe. That fella can teach anybody how to become a champion if they stay with him. And that's what I did. I think I became a champion because I stayed with him and learned and practiced what I learned, used what I learned that he taught me. As a matter of fact, I think he taught me an American twist. I had no idea what that was about.
Would you tell us about meeting Sydney Llewellyn and the circumstances of his becoming your coach?
I don't remember the year, but one of a friend named Billy Davis. This was during the years when I was winning ATA tournaments, and he tried to impress upon me, say, "Champ, you ought to get a coach," because they always called me Champ. When I became a champ, that was my name, Champ. I said, "Champ, now you need a coach, and I know someone who can help your game tremendously." And I said, "Who is that?" He said, "Well, Sydney Llewellyn." I said, "Who is Sydney?" But eventually, I did get to meet with Sydney, and we started working out, and believe you me, he worked my butt off. The tennis courts that are on 7th Avenue where he teaches now, we would have practice sessions every day, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, practicing serve, volleys, and in between practice, Billy Davis, the same one that introduced me to Sid, would come out and play. We would play as if we were playing a match for our lives. And through him and Sid, my game became so powerful that I guess to them and to me, they said, "How can anyone beat this person, this woman?" And we would have such great sessions practicing all day long. And that's how I became quite good, through those practice sessions and through Billy Davis coming and working out with me every day. Now mind you, I didn't say 1 or 2 hours a day. 8 hours on the tennis court. and just taking a break to have a snack and to relax and continue. Sydney would have maybe a box of balls, about 200 or 300 balls on the service line, and I would serve all 200 or 300 of those balls in one spot until I was so accurate that I could close my eyes and put the ball where I wanted to. That's how he taught me how to play tennis.
When you think back to the period when you were, we should cut here. We only have a minute left.
Okay. Champions, Bill Miles Productions. Sound roll 8, camera roll 10, sound 18. Second ID.
What if you talk a bit about the modern game of tennis? What you see when you see matches? What kind of players impress you or don't impress you?
I don't want to talk about that.
Don't want to talk about the modern game at all?
The modern game. Wait a minute. Hold it. Stop the cameras. Sid, come here.
Sound 19.
I know you continue to see tennis today. I know you continue to watch the game. Would you share some of your impressions with us? What do you see when you go to tennis matches today? How are you impressed by the game?
Well, I'm quite impressed in that from my time of playing.
Just a moment, would you say I'm quite impressed by what I see in tennis today, Michael?
All right, I'm quite impressed with what I see today in the modern tennis players. In that they're younger, they're coming out young, and one thing I'm not impressed with, however, is that they don't seem to be hitting with drive like I would in my day and the players during my time. They seem to be hitting with more topspin, as if they want to make the ball hop a little more. They don't seem to have that forward drive, that ball just propelling across the net. Okay, and I'm also impressed, of course, with there are plenty of players coming out and they're making money. In my day, it was for peanuts and for cups and for silverware, and not the bread, shall I say, to quote. That's what I'm impressed with. Now, today, I wish I was able to play today and make the kind of money that they're making. I wouldn't have to worry about a thing.
I'm going to give you the beginning of a sentence, and I'd like you to complete the sentence.
Okay.
The first words of this sentence are, to be a champion.
To be a champion, you have to have intensity to be a champion. You have to have the willingness and the desire to get out there and sweat, train, have diligence, and would want to win. Because I notice a lot of players today, especially some of our black young ladies, I've noticed that they don't seem to have the intensity, the drive to want to win. I was looking at a match at the U.S. Open this recently, and I was noticing one of our black young ladies playing. To me, she had the match won. But then I noticed something there. There was no drive. It seemed like she just quit all of a sudden without continuing on to force that drive and intensity that is required, particularly for her to win that particular match. And this is what I'm not too impressed with some of our black players. They don't seem to have that willingness to want to win.
Cut. Sound 20.
Many people may think that the conditions under which you played were filled with prejudice, racial discrimination, and perhaps that wasn't a condition. What was it like in your own one? How do you remember it?
Well, I'm sure that there was prejudice, but I suppose I ignored it because I was so intense in my tennis, playing the game of tennis, that I didn't even think about it. And so it didn't bother me. And then maybe one thing that that might have saved me was that in those years I was antisocial. I didn't give a hoot about going to parties and cocktail affairs and hanging out with the other tennis groups and the other tennis players. After I finished my match, I went home, relaxed, had my supper, and discussed with my coach what had to be done the next day, and that was it. So it didn't bother me. So I just ignored it.
Good. I think that's fine.
This video raises questions, and I need for you to be extremely honest in the comments when answering them. And just so you know, I have 3 questions. Number 1, please share your thoughts of Althea Gibson. What are your thoughts about her? What have you heard about her? What have you learned about her? Number 2, who would you like for me to do a video on next? And number 3, what are your thoughts about this video? Please share them in the comments. Please be honest when answering these questions. Share this video with anyone you deem necessary. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.